So with the groin strain, in terms of injury prevention, what you've got to do is very similar to other muscles, is work at different things before training and after training, and then doing strengthening work when you're away from the training to make sure that muscle's in as good a state as you can possibly have it, and has got, can cope with as much strength as as it can. So before training, you must do your warm-up. Especially if you are going to do an activity like football, which is going to be twisting and turning and kicking balls. One of the worst things you ever see happen is people go straight out onto a field, potentially on a Sunday morning or on a Saturday afternoon, and just pick up a ball and boot it, and they've not done any warm-up at all. That's when you're going to pull your groin. So for me, it's really important you go out and you get some kind of warmth into the muscles. So you'll be doing jogging activities, gradually building up to sprinting activities to get the muscles, to get the blood pumping into the area, and then you're going to do your stretching. Because what you've got to do is take that muscle from being in a shortened, rested state to be as long as it can, so it can cope with any of the strains that it's going to need within the next 90 minutes, for example, if it's football. So you're going to do your stretching. I do both forms of stretching, so I'd always advocate you do static stretching, which is where the muscle is just gradually lengthened, and then you hold that position for 10 to 15 seconds at a time. If you're looking at getting flexibility over a period of time, you're going to extend that to maybe 30, 35 seconds. So I would always do 3 stretches on each groin, left and right. And then I would start to do a bit more dynamic stretching, which might be doing side lunges or something like that, so that basically the muscle's being lengthened and then shortened, then lengthened and then shortened, and you get that movement going into it. And it's really important that you do that dynamic bit at the end, because minute 1, you could have to receive a ball where your legs put into a really extended position. And that's why, for me, it's very important that you get that extensibility and that flexibility at the start of a training session. When we talk about flexibility, one thing I would always say as well is, if you strengthen a muscle, generally that muscle is going to get shorter over a period of time. So that's why, for example, if you do a lot of upper body weights, you're going to get shorter and shorter. You can find people's shoulders get round and round. And it's the same with any muscle. So I think for me, at the same time that you're doing the strengthening, you need to get the flexibility. So you have to stretch at the same time, otherwise you're going to be prone to injury. So you might have a muscle that's very strong but very short, and then when you go and do an activity like football, it might get taken out of its kind of comfort zone, and that's where you're going to get injured. On the reverse of that, if you go and you do lots of flexibility work and you stretch for kind of 30, 35 seconds, and you don't have the strength, then when it's at its longest and it's very vulnerable, that's when you're going to get injured as well. So away from the training regime, it's very important to do your flexibility work, and it's very important to do your strength work. When you talk about strength, you could use cables or TheraBand just to basically get some strength going into the groin muscle, or if you have to and all you've got is using a groin machine, that's what you would do. The big thing I believe in is that I think a lot of the times, especially with a lot of sportsmen, they have very, very strong abdominals and they don't work on the groin muscles. A lot of people work on their hamstrings and their quads quite routinely as part of a gym circuit, but you don't find many people work on their groins. And for me, what happens is that the abdominal muscles get so strong, and when you're required to do quite a high intensity activity, they pull very hard. Your groins haven't got the strength in them, and you get injuries quite a lot within that muscle, especially in sports like football. So it's very important that you look at strengthening up the groin muscle. You might use massage if you're very lucky and you have a massage before, your massage there you can do before training. It gets the muscle ready to be able to take the activity that you're trying to do. And after training, it's very important, because what you want to do is take all the waste products away so that it's ready and prepared, especially if you're looking to train or play a game a couple of days later. And that's when you're going to be most vulnerable, when that muscle is full of all the waste products from the game before. And that's where it becomes very important that you maybe then do a warm down at the end of a session, which is where you get the muscle, all the blood to go away and the muscle to cool down, which is why it's called a cool down, in terms of the muscle having less and less blood pumping around it. And then you'll take that muscle, in terms of doing stretching, nice and gently back to its normal length, so that you can then work the next time and go again. So your warm downs, your warm ups, your stretching, your strengthening, and as I say, in focusing on strengthening, as I said before, I would not do loads of abdominals. I would work more on the groin wise.